Welcome to the Speak Like a Leader podcast with John Bates. Welcome to the show. With me today, I have someone who is very, very high in my pantheon of just patron saints of my life. His name is David Cunningham, and he's a communication and transformation expert. He's an author and a speaker, and he actually started out doing something that my sister does, which is to work with special ed kids. And then he ran the Connecticut Justice for Children Foundation. He ran the National Committee for Prevention of Child Abuse. He became a landmark forum leader, which is where I met him. And, he still manages to do things like volunteer at a halfway house for formerly incarcerated individuals. And, how he sees his life is that he has had the opportunity to take many paths towards making a difference. And so I am really thrilled to welcome you, David Cunningham. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks, John. I'm humbled by your introduction. Thank you. Moved by it.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm going to cry. So, let's just go right to it, because one of the things that I think about you all the time about now is the story that you told about your mom and your stepdad, who was so good to you, right? Which he didn't have to be, but he was. And then he got dementia. And my mom has dementia now. And I can't tell you how many times I think of you as I answer her same question again without getting upset. I just answer it so I can just be with my mom in the moment, So do you want to tell us that story?
Sure. It was, my mom was married to my stepdad, Bob, for over 30 years. And in the last few years he did, as you said, got dementia. And I watched my mom, nobody would want that situation. But I watched my mom be able to be peaceful, have love in her home, and be powerful in the face of that circumstance. And I think the best demonstration was one morning, the one you're referring to, is I watched over breakfast. Bob asked her probably 30 times, no exaggeration, what day it was. He'd take a bite of cereal, then look up and go, "What day is it?" And she'd go, "It's Monday, Bob." And he'd look down, take a bite of food, look back up, go, "What day is it?" She'd go, "It's Monday," Bob. Probably 30 times, no exaggeration.
Yeah.
And the 30th time was with no less patience than the first. And
Yeah.
when it was all over, I asked her, "Mom, how did you do that?" Right? And her answer was very simple. She goes, "I wish she asked me a different question. But if I wait for the question I want, I don't get to talk to my husband." She goes, "If I answer the question he asked me, at least in that moment, I get to talk to my husband." And she said, "I'll answer any question he asks me. I don't care how many times." So that was her with all of her power in the face of a circumstance nobody would want, to have the quality of life she wanted in her home with her husband.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that has made a big difference for me. And I think about
But,
it almost daily as
wow,
I
really
deal
good.
with my mom, and
Mhm.
it would be really tempting to get frustrated to just hear the complaints over and over. There's such a track, my brother and sister and I joke about it because it's the only thing we can do. But in the moment when I'm hearing that track again and it's the same thing, and I'm so tempted to just be snitty or whatever, I remember that, and I'm just like, well, I'm just going to be with my mom in this exact moment, answering that exact question, separate from anything that came before or after.
Tremendous. There's a principle for living behind that, John, where
Yeah.
what simply said is that you and I love our lives when we love who we are being,
Yeah.
not what we have. We don't necessarily love our lives, no matter what we have, whether we have the car, don't have the car, doesn't really determine whether we love our lives. Not what we do. Going skiing in the Swiss Alps or cleaning the basement doesn't really give us the quality of our lives. What gives us the quality of our life is who we be as human beings.
Yeah.
And so we love being loving, and we love being
Yeah.
generous, and we love being compassionate. So the more difficult the situation gives us, presents us with, our parents who have dementia, for instance, is actually the biggest opportunity for us to be somebody. So your mom
Yeah.
gives you the opportunity to be extraordinarily compassionate and understanding, which is where you'll find your joy in this time with your mom.
Yeah. Whew. Well, it reminds me of so just to jump right in,
Mhm.
but that also reminds me of another story that you told, which just, I mean, I can't tell you the impact it had on me, and I kind of like telling the short version and then hearing your expanded version, if that's okay.
Sure.
But the other story that just utterly just changed my life, and I got to tell you how many times I've told this story to clients of mine and people in similar situations, and the difference that it's made out there is rippled way beyond just me. But when you were working with the National Committee for Prevention of Child Abuse,
Mhm.
as I remember it, everybody that you talked to, the goal was to pass laws at a local level and then get them to come to a state level and then get them to a federal level. And everybody would always go along with it, right? Because who's gonna argue against preventing child abuse? But then when it came to actually passing the laws, like crickets. And then I remember you got that big grant or whatever it was and had the big ad that was on TV and had all the operators standing by to talk to people and crickets, right? You
Yeah.
want to tell us that story?
Sure. We made a big mistake at that point. We did an ad which, said child abuse is a problem. If you're hurting your child, you should stop and we can help.
Yeah.
And got 0 calls. We had operators saying bye, but got 0 calls. But the point is that, the people we were intending to support, we were telling them there was something wrong with them. They were bad. So you're bad and you're doing something wrong. So call us. Now who's going to respond?
Right.
Um, and we learned from that though, and we learned, and we put a new ad on. We had the good fortune to be able to do another ad the next year. We put a new ad on where we showed a mother in her kitchen under all the kind of stress a mother could be under, and the baby's crying, and the radio's blaring, the phone rings. It's the bill collector. She slams down the phone. The baby still's crying. She's about ready to grab the child, shake the child, and I said, "It's okay. Stop. It's okay. Take hold of yourself before you take hold of your kid. It's
Oh,
okay. We can help. Call us."
yeah. Oh,
And we got thousands of phone calls the first night.
yeah.
But the point it made was that the people that we were intending to communicate with had to hear that we understood. We really did understand what they were dealing with, and we there was no judgment involved.
Yeah.
And then they could listen, then they could talk. I think you're pointing out that no matter how valuable we think what we have to say is, if people don't listen to it, it makes no difference. So
No.
the point is, what has people want to listen to us? And what has people want to listen to us is that they they know that we appreciate their circumstances, what they're dealing with, and still have some extraordinary new possibility for them. We have complete understanding of what you're dealing with, and there's something possible. And when people hear that message, they want to talk. They
Yeah.
want to
God, it's so beautiful, I mean, and after that happened and after you took that new approach, as I understand it, laws started to get passed, things started to happen.
listen. Child abuse prevention, but this is a long time ago. This is back in the 1980s. Child abuse prevention programs, legislation for child abuse prevention, and child abuse prevention programs started to really happen all across the country, and started around the world actually too. So,
Yeah. Well,
mhm.
so, all that to lead into what you're doing now,
Yeah.
which
By the way,
is
John, sorry. By the way, that
yeah.
you remember those stories from, this is now, I think, 19 years ago.
Yeah. Yes.
That that you remember
Oh,
those stories. That's quite remarkable, right? That
it's
somehow
yeah.
that points to also that when you can share something real that somebody can connect with, it stays with them. So I'm really
Yeah.
struck by those stories have stayed with
Yeah.
you now for almost 20 years.
Yeah. Well, and David, when I first met you, I was probably $50,000 in debt, had no idea what I was going to do when I grew up, had lost my dot-com company in 2000 after
Mm,
raising $80 million. And then, our investors pulled the plug during the crash. And I just, I had just been kind of doing stuff, consulting here and there. And now look, I'm too old for false modesty, right? I'm really one of the top leadership communications coaches in the world. I've trained
mm,
the NASA astronauts. I work with NASA all the time, Navy Special Operations, and it was things like that that helped me shape who I was becoming and who I became. And all that failure and all those lessons learned,
mm.
I think is what gave me the compassion to go in, and I can talk to people who are global leaders and have create a safe space for them that I couldn't have done without all of that. And it took me probably, I think, I really started doing what I'm doing now in about 2009, 2010. So it took me about 14 years to come up with this phrase, this two-word phrase, but I think you'll like it. I call it insightful vulnerability.
Mm.
And
You
insightful, now here's the other two-word thing that goes with it. Insightful vulnerability establishes emotional credibility.
Beautiful. Insightful vulnerability is definitely different than arrogant intelligence,
Well said. Yes.
right?
Yeah, one works better than another.
Which, by the way, most people try to lead with their intelligence, or try to lead with their logic, or try to lead with their smartness,
Yeah.
and it isn't powerful.
No.
What there is to lead with is your humanity. I'd say lead with your love.
Yeah.
You said compassion, right? Lead with that. That's what gives the power to connect with people, and you can only make a difference with people you're connected with.
Yeah. Gosh, well said. So that brings me to your website, just so that people will mention it now.
Mhm.
Yourlovedoesmatter.com.
Yes.
So, and we'll put up a link to you on LinkedIn, and we'll put up a link to your website. You don't have to write it down now, but I do think that it's like the perfect URL for you. Your love does matter, because it's just who you have always been for me, is someone who just physically embodies what genuine love looks like, and shares those stories of insightful vulnerability and, you know, places where you may like that was if I remember right, that was in a nationwide advertisement
Mhm. It
that
was,
got
yeah,
zero phone calls. Right? I mean,
it
like,
was. Mhm.
and,
You know
you know, great that you have the insight now to say, well, we got to do something the next year and we learned from our lesson, right? That's
Mhm.
such a valuable lesson that you had to pay such a price for.
Mhm. Yes, and it's, in my own life, right? Similar to like your life journey, my life journey was one where at a very young age, I'm talking 4 or 5 years old, I had this experience. It's kind of a silly experience in one way. You ever see those by the highway? You drive down the highway and see somebody selling paintings that are on a velvet background, like they paint tigers or Elvis
Yeah.
Presley,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? They're kind of cheesy paintings. Well,
Yeah.
when I was like 4 years old, I got taken to church for a candlelight sermon in this old wood frame church we went to. But it was a candlelight service. I'd never seen anything so beautiful. And the whole service was this guy painting a picture of Jesus on velvet. And my little
That's
4-year-old eyes,
awesome.
it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen my whole life.
That's
Right?
awesome.
But what I got in touch with in that moment was, in that case, oh, I love like that. Like, it was Jesus with children and little lambs, right? And it was like
Yeah.
love, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I love like that," right? Like, I really got at 4 years old, I was like, "Wow,
Wow.
I love like that. That's how much I love
That's
people." And then I got talked out of it over the years. Do you
yeah.
know? I got talked
Yes,
out
I do.
even in that same church in Sunday school class, I got taught I was a sinner.
Yeah, right.
And, and then, my family moved away from everybody else, and as we drove away, I watched my grandmother fall down crying, and we just drove away. Oh, I guess our love doesn't matter that much, right?
Ugh, right.
And then my own family, my dad turned brutally violent, so then it was like, I guess love doesn't matter.
Mm,
And then I started coming out as a gay man in my early 20s, and, I was told my love was completely unwelcome.
yeah,
And, so it wasn't until later that it was like, "Oh, wait a minute. I got to reclaim my love." It was
yeah,
in my own when I did participated in the forum itself,
yeah,
I got to reclaim, "Oh, I really do love people, and that's what
yeah,
matters." And so
yeah,
then, um, I think too, it's really useful. I want to create with people the notion of a love footprint. We talk about a carbon footprint, and I think people can really grasp, oh, yeah, well, there's something I'm leaving behind. Well, what if we're also leaving behind a love footprint?
yeah,
And I think it's really useful. I think people can really grasp that and deal with that. Like, okay, I just had an interaction with the clerk in a store for a minute. What did I leave behind? Did I leave
yeah,
behind impatience or love?
yeah,
Oh, I
yeah,
just had lunch with my brothers and sisters. What did I leave behind? Did I leave
yeah,
behind distance, judgment, or did I leave behind love?
yeah.
So love matters and we have a love footprint. That's what I'm committed to. I'm actually committed that love prevails on this. Love prevails is the preeminent way of being on the planet. That's what I say my life is about now. Love prevailing is the preeminent way of being on the planet.
Wow. I'm with you on that, David. I'm in your court. I'm in your corner there.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
when you say that, like obviously from our earlier conversation, I'm really present now to my mom and my dad. And my dad died about 2 years ago. And
Mhm. Mm,
we didn't realize my mom had dementia so badly until he was gone,
mhm,
which we felt awful about. And then we found out that two friends of ours, both of whom are psychiatrists and psychologists, had the same experience with their parents, and so we were like, okay, well, okay, at least it's not just us. But when I go around here in Salt Lake City, and people realize that I am their son, it's going to make me cry, but I walk in and they're just like, I mean, everywhere, like the grocery store, the restaurant, like wherever my parents went, when the people who are there realize I'm their son, like I just walk on clouds,
mhm. Yeah.
That's a
John,
love footprint.
I love how moved you are and how moved you're willing to be.
Yeah. Thank you.
And how
Yeah.
moved you are. And but we're moved by, we're moved when like that which we really care about is present, right? So,
Yeah.
if you watch people be moved in life when they're moved, it could be like you see a total stranger be kind to a child and you get moved by it.
Yeah.
That's because that's your love for children getting expressed. You don't care who's doing it. So,
Yeah.
I think it's really important to own well how how willing you are to be moved. It's a wonderful thing.
Thank you.
Mhm,
I would love to talk about that with you for a minute because like definitely it's part of who I am and
mhm,
people comment, but I remember I think it was probably high school or something, because I grew up with a dad who loved me tremendously. And when I was young, he was like the great Santini. He was a captain in the Marine Corps. He got wounded in combat in Vietnam. He'd rather carry the garbage for the Marine Corps than be the president of the most powerful company in the world, like so that came with stuff. And
mhm,
and you know, I remember making a decision at a certain point that I was not gonna like stuff my emotions down. I was actually gonna live we would say now live out loud, I guess, but like I was gonna just live fully. And part of that was experiencing my emotions, and I was gonna stop building this wall because like I realized it's nobody's job on earth to tear down my wall. Like if I
Mhm.
build a wall, like I'm the only one whose job it is to tear that
Right.
thing down if I don't want it.
Mhm.
And so I really leaned into being willing to experience my emotions and try not to let them run away with me or anything. But, um, and I feel like that was a really, I don't know where that came from. Like, I have no idea how or why I did that, but I'm glad I did.
Yeah. Well, I think it also points to something, which is that when people are you're talking about yourself being free, you gave yourself the freedom
Yeah.
to experience it, right? You're the freedom to express it. And that's something that I definitely assert is that when people are free, they love. And when if people are constrained, people are withheld, people are in fact cruel or argumentative, I just assert they're not free, that they're trapped in some judgment, they're trapped in some resentment, they're trapped in some belief. And so what doesn't work is say, "Oh, you should be more loving." That never works for some, right?
Yeah.
What works is to find out where people got trapped and set them
Yeah.
free. That's all. Just find out where they got trapped and set them free, where they get stopped and set them free. And then trust that when people are free, oh, you can trust them. When people are free, they love.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm sure you have a story about that. Do you have anything that comes to mind in particular when you think about, you know, because one of the things that we talk a lot about communication here and the power of words and all of that, and I don't think that I was at all present to the fact that our words and our decisions and all this internal stuff
Mhm,
constrains us and affects us so much till I did the Landmark Forum and I saw all those places where little decisions I'd made or things that I had said to myself and decided were true that weren't necessarily true, but they were
mhm.
just keeping me so constrained.
Well, it's just, and I think for us to deal with it's society wide, it's humanity wide. One of the things everybody got trapped in was a certain paradigm that everything is right or wrong, everything is good or bad, everything or should and shouldn't be a certain way. When
Yes.
you and I grew up, we just heard it. Like people, and no matter what people were talking about, it included, they didn't, nobody ever just said, hey, weather. They said good weather or bad weather. You know,
Yeah.
and everything they didn't say movie, they said good movie, bad movie. They didn't say music, they said good music, bad music. And if they commented on what the Pope said, or they commented on what time your dad came home from work, or they commented on how long the grass was in the front yard, or they commented on the how loud the neighbor's music was, they commented on our handwriting or the way we chewed our food. Everything got framed as good or bad, right or wrong. And nobody told us they were making that up.
Yeah.
We got They
Right.
just said, "No, it is. The weather is bad, and the president is wrong, and the neighbor's music is too loud, and the your dad came home at the wrong time." Like, it was the
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah.
And so you and I got taught that, no, things really are good or bad. We didn't get taught, no, things are what they are, and we can evaluate them as good or bad, but we're doing that. It's not inherent to the thing. So the point, John, sorry, is to when people can get free from that, because that's the basis of all resentment and all judgment
Yeah.
is, oh, and I don't even know why, depending on the culture we got born into, determines what we think is good and bad. But all of a sudden, that other person over there looks like they're doing something wrong, and I end up resenting them. I'm not free. So if I can
Yeah.
free myself from that fundamental paradigm, it gives acceptance. Acceptance isn't making something okay. Acceptance is having something be what it is. It's raining outside. Acceptance isn't, oh, it's okay that it's raining. No, acceptance is it's raining. It's neither okay or not okay. It's
Yeah.
raining. That's what's happening. And then I can be smart and take an umbrella with no resentment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Perfect. It's
but but again, that's going to the point where we all got trapped in a certain belief system that breeds resentment, breeds judgment, breeds division, breeds, we don't relate to it like we have a view of life. We relate to it like somebody's right and somebody's wrong about it. If you're standing in front of my house and I'm standing in the back of my house, we have different views. Isn't it silly to
yeah.
argue which one of us has the right view?
Yeah.
No, we have different views, but we argue that all the time, John. And if we can step outside of that right wrong paradigm, just like, oh, I have a view of life. Now what's yours? And so the resentment falls away and the judgment falls away. And again, when we're free, we love.
And you are just coming out with a book. Is that right?
Yeah. The book is called what we talked about, Your Love Does Matter, A
Yeah.
Journey to New Consciousness and Expanding Your Love Footprint. So I'm really committed that people can count on their love. It's what I pointed to before is a lot of times, if let's suppose you are concerned about the way your daughter-in-law is raising the kids, or you are concerned about the way your boss is managing a project, or you're concerned about, what one of your elected officials is doing, or you're concerned about what your teenage child is doing. Most people try to deal with all that by being right, logical, convincing, uh, smart, even domineering, maybe sometimes even forceful. And none of that really works, at least in the long term. What works is love. I can only make a difference with that which is in my arms. If you have a dance partner that's across the room, you can't move them, right?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you have a dance partner in your arms, you can move with them. I can't move. I can't have somebody move with me that's I'm resenting. I can't have somebody move with me that's out of my arms.
Yeah.
So that I bring someone into my arms and love them. Is how I would say it. As I have them close to me, close to my heart, then I can accomplish what I want to accomplish with anybody. And I think
Yeah.
that's essential to leadership.
Well, and I'm so glad that you wrote this book, and I'm so excited that it's coming out soon. It may be out by the time we get this up. And if I just want to say this, we will put it in the show notes, but if you visit yourlovedoesmatter.com/gift, we're going to have a free training there. I think that's a video that you
Yeah,
did, David,
a
and then
record.
an excerpt from the book.
Yes. And I think I'm really pleased with it. Like I'm fulfilled by it. Like I got to say what I wanted to say to the world, right?
And
Uh,
it's so cool, right? Like, cause now you put it in a book
yeah.
and people can give it to each other. It can go all over the world and you don't have to be there.
Mhm,
And yet you're there for each person who picks that up and reads it.
mhm.
It's a cool thing.
Yeah, I'm very satisfied by it. So I'm glad to have it be available. Should be ready for distribution by the end of February of this year. So
Okay. Of
here we go.
2025. Yeah.
2025. That's right. Okay.
Well,
So
so
go ahead.
you also have and if there's something else you want to say, I want to hear it before I,
Well, just there's two initiatives I'm getting started at the same time. One is called the Love Matters collaboration,
it's what I
and
was going to bring up. Yeah.
okay, good. And I'm committed that I'm working on what I'm working on, but I just know there's thousands of people out there working on different things that if we could come together and share our ideas and share our resources and support each other to have love win in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy, I'm all for it.
There's, I don't need to say to you or to anybody listening the vitriol that is in pervasive in society now, whether that's in politics or education or even the
Yeah.
arts or sports, right? It's
Yeah.
invaded just
Yeah.
about everything now, right? If you think about the vitriol that's involved in the conversations about transgender athletes, you know, I'm committed that if we come together, we can have love make a difference. I don't know what to do about transgender athletes. I don't know if you do. I'm not sure how
Yeah.
to handle it, but why do we have to be hateful about it?
Yeah. Yeah.
can't we at least bring love to the situation and see what we might think of, right?
Yeah.
So the Love Matters collaboration, I'm just committed people that are dealing with things all over the world can come together and really support each other and share resources. And I'll be wanting, wanting to provide a lot of information for that. And then the other one is called Love Goes to the Capitol, which I'm really excited about. Uh, and I just think that if we could infuse our capitals, our state capitals and the Washington Capitol, just infuse the environment with love. So I have ideas like, let's have take a group of formerly incarcerated men up and deliver an orchid to every legislator. Have a group of trans teenagers go and just open the doors for a week, just for a week. Open the doors, not 1 ounce of political talk, not any agenda. Just go open the doors and express like real welcome to legislators walking in and out. What if we just infuse the environment of our capitals with love? I think that would make a difference. So,
Yeah.
I've got some ideas about that, but I think people around the country would have lots of ideas. So I'm also interested in being able to build a grassroots movement where people around the country can come up with ideas for taking love to the Capitol until we infuse our whole political system with love and love prevails.
I love it. And it does bring me back around to kind of where you and I started, which was the Landmark Forum. And I remember the first time I did the Landmark Forum, and one of the things I learned was that, default human being loves nothing more than being right.
Hmm.
And the only thing that even comes close to being right is when you get to make others wrong,
Hmm.
right? That's second place. And so we go around being right and making others wrong like we're winning a prize, like that's like some kind of awesome, yummy treat to be right and make other people wrong. And then we talked for quite a while about what that costs us.
Hmm.
Like it feels like we're winning in the moment, but what that costs us is love and affinity and closeness and trust and respect. I mean, just everything we actually care about.
And your real self expression. Like,
Yes.
expressing our opinion is not self expression.
I think I need to post that every day on every social media
Right.
channel that I have, right?
Right. So we have opinions. Opinions are something we have. They come and go, you'll notice, right?
Yeah.
They're like clouds in the sky. They come and then they go. Opinions come and go. That's not who we are. So if we
Yeah.
say our opinions like it's self expression, like that's who we are, it is a big mistake. So our opinions change over time. That which changes, I'm in favor of discovering that which is eternal versus that which
Yeah.
comes and goes. You'll notice your love is eternal.
Yeah.
It doesn't change. Love is love, period.
Mm.
And it's always there. Sometimes it's expressed, sometimes it's not, but it's always there. So, self expression, you were saying that being right costs us our self expression. We
Yeah.
don't get to be ourselves when we're being right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
here's the real funny thing is
mm,
I've got bad news for you, John. Okay,
okay.
you've never been right ever, ever, not once. How do I know that? Now you've never been wrong either. That's the good news. So you've never been right. You've never been wrong. How do I know that? Because there's no such thing. Right and wrong is all made up. It's a The whole notion of right and wrong is a made up paradigm. The whole
Yeah.
notion of good or bad is made up.
Yeah.
So you've never
Yeah.
been good and you've never been bad.
Yeah. And that's challenging, I think, to
Mhm.
hear at first, right? Like there's no, like good and bad is made up. There's no such thing. Now,
No,
that doesn't mean you can't say, I'm committed to stopping child abuse. That's
absolutely.
totally different, right?
It's
Like that's a commitment born out of something.
But to own it, like I'm saying that versus no, this is the truth. This is right.
Yeah.
See, child abuse. I can say I'm out to disappear child abuse. I'm out to have
Yeah.
child abuse stop happening. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a commitment I have, something that's important to me, that matters to me as much as anything matters to me. That's different than saying child abuse is wrong. because as soon as I'm right about it, somebody else will have to argue with it.
Yeah.
Righteousness breeds argument.
Yeah.
The more right I consider myself to be, the more I should expect somebody to argue with me.
Do I think righteousness breeds, say that again?
Righteousness breeds argument. Righteousness breeds
Argument. Yes.
disagreement. So
Yes.
the more right I assert I am, the more likely it is somebody's going to challenge me and say, "No, that's not right. That's wrong."
Yeah.
That's just what
Yeah.
happens. So, but if I can take a powerful, like really heartfelt stand on something, not like I'm right for it, it's what I say matters. I say it
Yeah.
matters.
Yeah.
I'm saying it
Yeah.
matters. I'm committing myself to it that it matters.
Yeah.
But I'm not right. I'm not, so the
Yeah.
righteousness isn't there.
I mean, I could just put that on repeat for like an hour and it wouldn't be enough. Like
Mhm.
it's so, I think it is so counterintuitive on some level. And yet, when it really sinks in and you really take that on, it's so outrageously powerful to
Mhm.
let go. There's a Rumi poem, right? Out beyond good and bad, there's a field. I'll
Mhm.
meet you there, something
Yes.
like that.
Yes. Very close. Yes.
Yeah, and it just gave me goosebumps to say that because I've experienced that in my life when I can give up being right or wrong and just take a powerful stand because I say so,
Mhm.
something just incredible
And
happens.
again, you can be listened to, then people can listen. It's very difficult to listen to somebody who's righteous.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, that's easy to say when you're the one listening. It's more difficult to say when you're the one talking.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is social media, right? Particularly the cesspool now that I think Twitter has become is like it's just being right and making others wrong. And the better you are at that, the better you win on Twitter. And it's like
Right.
it has so nothing to do with accomplishing anything positive, you
Yeah.
know?
All right. Now, if we could frame that rather than, okay, now that social media is wrong.
Yeah, here I am doing it. I mean, I'm stepping in it with you, David. Like, here I am.
Okay, good. So what's an alternative? It's like, good. Well, what's an alternative? Here's one possible alternative, John, is what works and what doesn't work. What gives life? See,
Yeah,
I'm not interested in being right. I'm interested in giving life, like breathing
yeah,
life. You think, what gives the most life to the most people?
yeah,
So, so if we could say, oh, is what's going on in the social media? I don't know if it's right or wrong. I don't know if it's good or bad. That's not a useful conversation. You'll notice telling somebody that they're doing something bad is not an
yeah.
effective way to change behavior.
No,
Telling a little boy that he shouldn't hit his brother doesn't get him to stop hitting his brother. Telling people it's bad to do drugs doesn't have them stop doing drugs.
no.
It doesn't. And we've even seen at an extreme level telling people that it's wrong to molest children doesn't have them stop molesting children. It doesn't work.
Yeah,
It's a bankrupt paradigm.
yeah,
So, what's an alternative? I think an alternative is versus what's right and wrong or good, bad is what works? Like what gives
yeah,
life? What gives you the most life? What gives the most life to the most people? That I think is an alternative basis for dialogue and for making choices.
yeah. I think that's awesome. I'm glad that I just put my foot in it, but I'm glad you were here. And I'm going to really take that with me because it's been something that I've been letting bother me a
Mhm.
lot lately, like and there is a part of me that's all like, this is bad and wrong. And you know what I mean? And it sucks me in and it doesn't help and it doesn't make anything any better.
And you may want to make a difference with it. You may not want to make a difference with it. You may just observe
Right.
it. But if you decided
Yeah.
you did want to make a difference with it,
Yeah.
making a difference from a righteous position won't be effective at all.
Yeah.
Okay, so and
Yeah.
that's what there is, I think, for us to really learn as a humanity is we've
Yeah.
relied on our being right well, we're not right. We have our view, and there's other views.
Yeah.
So we've relied on being right, and it's not an effective way to make a difference with other human beings.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So we're coming up. I know that we've got about just a few more minutes left, and I want to
That's
respect your
really
time.
already? Oh my gosh.
I
Okay.
I know. I want you to come back. um, but so is there anything that I didn't bring up that you wanted to talk about, or anything you'd like to say before we go? Like, I mean, we still have a few minutes, but I just want to make sure I didn't step over anything.
Well, I think that that point about, again, I'm committed that we can really, like, people all over this country, all over the world. I'm kind of speaking to the country first. We're right,
Yeah.
right here. Is, you know, I think we could start a movement,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Really,
Well,
let's start
I
a movement.
mean, David, if I can catch your language, I think you already have started a movement.
Mhm. Good. And let's breathe life into it, shall we?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah. Let's. I'm down.
we can create an environment of love. So there's, I love you and you love me, so that's there, that's possible. But then, are we living in an environment of love?
Right.
And the answer for the most part is no.
Yeah.
We're living in an environment of opinions. We're living in an environment of righteousness, mostly. And what would it take to not only, I can love you, I can love my mom, I can love, people, but what would it take for us as humanity to create an environment of love? And I think we're on the precipice of that. I think we're evolving. I do think we're evolving
Yeah.
as human beings.
Yeah.
And the subtitle of my book was A Journey to New Consciousness. It does take a new consciousness.
Yeah.
We need to step out of things we've been taught. We've been taught that we're separate. We got taught we were separate. How did we
Yeah.
do that? We just got named. Everything gets
Yeah.
separated by name. How does the United States get separate from Canada? It's one piece of dirt. How did it get separated? Oh, they
Yeah.
called this dirt United States and that dirt Canada. They gave it different names.
Yeah.
How did Monday and Tuesday get separated? It's a
Yeah.
block of time. Oh, they called some of the time Monday, some of the time Tuesday. The only
Yeah.
way things get separated is they get different names. You
Yeah.
got named John and I got named David and we got separated,
Yeah.
and that's the only way it works. So a new conscience, that the paradigms we've inherited have separated us and left us judging almost inevitably.
Yeah.
So if we could step out of those paradigms into really free ourselves, then I think we could start a movement where we could create a environment or a dimension of love. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm committed to.
Well, David, I'm really, really happy you're doing that. And I am in your corner, as I said, and I appreciate you coming and sharing all of this with us, because I really like, I want to do my part to help you succeed in that for all of us, because I think it's a fabulous mission, and I think you're the man to do it. And yeah, I'm really, really glad that we got a chance to talk. It's such a, I think I sent you an email before we jumped on here, and I said, I feel like a 12-year-old at a Beatles concert. I'm such a fanboy. So it's really a pleasure for me to get a chance to sit down and have a one-on-one conversation with you. And I'm really, really excited about your book and about what you're doing and about the perspective you bring. And I'd like to join you in that new consciousness and
Right.
create an environment of love.
Right. And John, it's always important to acknowledge source too. So I do want to acknowledge, that the training I got under Warner Earhart, who founded the S training and the Landmark Forum,
Yeah.
invaluable. I am working with the most beautiful Jagat Guru now. Her name is Sai Ma, and the blessing and the divinity that I receive from Her Holiness Sai Ma is a total source of who I am. And
Yeah.
then the colleagues I've had, that I wrote a book. Our mutual friend Chris Tremble. How come I wrote a
Yeah.
book? He sent me his book and asked me to write the forward to it, and I go, oh, well, I think I want to write a book too. And
Yeah.
Chris got in my corner and just has championed me all the way. You know,
Chris is fabulous. Yeah.
he is, right? Yeah, and he's about people living their life's purpose, and so at any rate, I think it's important to acknowledge source, and I appreciate your acknowledgement, but I also want to. I'm the I'm receiving much from many people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in thousands of generations back, David, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, and,
Yeah,
me on your shoulders, you on Werner's shoulders. Like, you know, I'm all that stuff has transformed my life and transformed the difference I get to make in the world.
yeah.
And
And I
so
think
I'm,
I think we're taking a step as a civilization, John. I really do assert that. Okay, we're ready to
yeah,
take a step, and if
yeah,
we just go together and we bet it all on love, let's just bet it all on
yeah,
love.
yeah, yeah.
We've been betting on being right for so long. It's not working.
We tried that.
Let's bet on loving.
Yeah.
Let's put all our chips on loving. And
Okay. Okay. I'm in.
okay, good. Let's go.
I think that's a great place for us to end this conversation. I really would love to have you come back in a little while once the book's out, once you've been talking about it, hear about some of your experiences and go a little deeper into what you're up to and causing. So I really would love to have you come back. And I'm with you. I'm oh, space station. So I'm with you. I'm like, let's put it all on love and
Great.
like spin it and let the chips fall how they may, huh?
Great, John. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful to be with you. I look forward to next time. And it's just wonderful to connect with you again after all these years.
Thank you. And likewise, David, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
And thank you for joining us here on livelikealeader.show. If you like the show, please tell your friends. Please give us a 5-star rating. That helps us get out to more people. We want to spread this message of love and affinity and useful conversations and, you know, all the great stuff that we do here. And you listening is what makes it possible. So thank you very much for joining us. And we'll see you next time on livelikealeader.show. Thank you for joining the Speak Like a Leader podcast. Go be awesome.